Chapter 1. Arrival at the Lighthouse. The lighthouse stood on a rocky cliff. It was tall and gray, with paint peeling off its walls. The sea roared below, waves crashing against the sharp rocks. The air smelled of salt and dampness. The sky was cloudy, and the wind was strong. 4 friends walked up the steep path to the lighthouse. Each step felt heavy. "This place is creepy," said Mia, holding her jacket close. "Are you scared already?" joked Tom. He carried a flashlight in one hand and a bag in the other. The door of the lighthouse looked old and rusty. It creaked loudly as Tom pushed it open. Inside, it was dark and cold. Dust floated in the air. The floor was made of old wooden planks that groaned under their feet. "Do people even come here anymore?" asked Lily, looking around. Her voice echoed. Jack, the quietest of the group, pointed to a broken lantern hanging from the ceiling. "Not for a long time," he said. Mia shivered. "Let's not stay here too long." The group stepped deeper into the lighthouse. The air inside was colder than outside. The floor creaked loudly under their feet. Tom led the way with his flashlight, sweeping it across the room. Dust floated in the light beam, making everything look eerie. There were scattered pieces of furniture. An old wooden table leaned on one leg. A chair with only 3 legs sat in the corner. "It looks like no one has been here for years," said Lily, brushing cobwebs off her sleeve. "This place feels weird," said Mia, shivering. "I don't like it." "Relax, Mia. It's just an old building," said Tom. "There's nothing to worry about." But even Tom's voice had a hint of unease. Jack walked slowly behind the group. He didn't say much, but his eyes scanned every corner. He noticed a rusty lantern hanging from the ceiling. Its glass was cracked, and it swayed slightly in the wind coming through a broken window. "This place is falling apart," he muttered. They moved to another room. It was small and empty, except for a dusty mirror leaning against the wall. Tom shined his flashlight on it. The glass was foggy, but they could still see their reflections. "Look at this," said Lily, pointing at the mirror. "It's cracked, but you can still see us." Jack frowned. "Let's keep moving," he said, his voice low. They found a spiral staircase in the middle of the lighthouse. It spiraled upward into the darkness. "This must lead to the top," said Tom. He started climbing without waiting for the others. The steps creaked loudly with every move. Mia hesitated. "Are you sure this is safe?" she asked, looking up nervously. "It's fine," Tom called back. "Just don't look down." One by one, the others followed. The climb felt endless. The stairs were narrow and dusty, and the flashlight barely lit the way. The sound of the waves outside grew fainter as they climbed higher. At the top, they stepped into a large circular room. Windows covered the walls, giving them a full view of the ocean. The glass was dirty, but the sea stretched out endlessly. Waves crashed far below, their sound distant and faint. The centerpiece of the room was the broken lighthouse lamp. It was large, with shattered glass and rusted metal. Dust coated every surface. Tom wiped a section of the window with his sleeve. "You can see everything from here," he said, impressed. "It's beautiful, but kind of sad," said Lily, leaning on the window. "It feels like this place has been forgotten." Mia stayed close to the staircase. She didn't like the feeling of being so high up. "Can we go back down now?" she asked. "Let's look around a bit more," said Tom, shining his flashlight on the floor. There were old tools scattered around, wrenches, bolts, and pieces of metal. A faded map lay crumpled in one corner. Jack picked up the map and unfolded it carefully. It showed the coastline, with small marks indicating shipwrecks. "This is strange," he said. "There are so many wrecks marked near this lighthouse." "Maybe that's why it was built here," said Lily. "To warn ships." "But it didn't work," Jack replied, his voice heavy. They decided to head back down. The climb down felt faster, but the air grew colder as they descended. When they reached the main room, they set up their sleeping bags near the staircase. The room was dark except for the flashlight resting on the floor. Tom tried to lighten the mood. "This will be fun," he said. "It's like camping, but cooler." "Cooler? You mean creepier," said Mia, wrapping herself in a blanket. The group sat in a circle, talking quietly. They shared snacks and told stories to pass the time. The lighthouse felt less scary when they laughed. Mia started telling a ghost story about a haunted ship. Her voice was dramatic, and the others laughed nervously. "What if this place is haunted?" she said, smiling. "Stop it," said Lily, glancing at the dark corners of the room. "That's not funny." Jack sat quietly, staring at the floor. He felt like someone, or something, was watching them. Chapter 2. Strange events begin. The friends sat in their circle, their flashlights creating soft beams in the dark room. They had started telling ghost stories to pass the time. Mia's story about a haunted ship had everyone laughing nervously. "And then," she said, her voice low, "the ghost appeared behind the captain and—" "Wait," Tom interrupted. "What was that?" Everyone froze. The room was silent except for the faint sound of the wind outside. "What?" asked Mia, looking around. "I saw something on the wall," Tom said, pointing his flashlight toward the far side of the room. The beam illuminated the cracked walls, but there was nothing unusual. "You're just trying to scare us," said Lily, rolling her eyes. "No, I swear," said Tom. "I saw a shadow move, but none of us were standing there." Mia chuckled nervously. "It's just your imagination." Jack, who had been quiet all night, spoke up. "I saw it too," he said, his voice firm. It moved right before Tom noticed it. The mood in the room shifted. Lily pulled her blanket tighter around her shoulders. "Let's not freak ourselves out," she said, trying to sound calm. They continued their stories, but the air felt heavier. Every now and then, one of them would glance at the walls, as if expecting to see something. The laughter grew quieter, replaced by nervous chatter. As Tom shined his flashlight toward the staircase, something caught his eye. A shadow flickered on the wall, but it didn't match any of their movements. "There it is again," he shouted, standing up. The others turned to look. The shadow on the wall didn't move with the flashlight. Instead, it seemed to shift on its own, sliding across the room like it had a mind of its own. "That's not normal," said Lily, her voice shaking. Tom walked closer to the wall, his flashlight steady. The shadow stopped moving. It froze in place, as if waiting. "Is it watching us?" whispered Mia. "Don't get too close," said Jack, his eyes fixed on the shadow. Tom stepped back quickly. The shadow began to move again, climbing higher up the wall. It stretched and twisted, its shape no longer resembling a person. "What is that thing?" asked Lily, backing away. The friends huddled together, their flashlights pointed in all directions. The shadow disappeared into the corner of the room, leaving them in silence. "Maybe it's just a trick of the light," said Mia, her voice trembling. Jack shook his head. "That's not a trick. Something's not right here." They tried to brush it off, but the uneasiness lingered. The friends decided to stay close to each other, keeping their flashlights on. But the shadows didn't stay away for long. Chapter 3. Shadows Grow. As the night went on, the shadows became bolder. At first, they appeared only in the corners of the room, faint and harmless. But soon, they grew darker and larger, moving closer to the group. Lily noticed one first. She gasped, pointing at the wall. "It's back!" The others turned to look. A shadow was climbing the wall, its shape shifting as it moved. It looked like a person, but its limbs were too long, its movements too unnatural. "Why is it moving like that?" asked Mia, her voice barely above a whisper. The shadow stopped at the ceiling and stretched out, covering the entire surface like a dark cloud. The flashlight beams seemed to disappear into it, as if the light couldn't touch it. Tom waved his hand toward the shadow, trying to test if it was real. But the shadow didn't react. Instead, it started to mimic his movements. "It's copying you!" shouted Lily. Tom froze, his hand still raised. The shadow mirrored him perfectly. But then it did something unexpected. It moved its other arm, even though Tom hadn't moved his. "That's not me," said Tom, stepping back quickly. The shadow dropped from the ceiling, slithering across the floor like smoke. The friends screamed and scrambled to their feet. The shadow stopped in the center of the room, its shape reforming into something humanoid. Jack grabbed his flashlight and aimed it directly at the shadow. The beam of light cut through the darkness, but the shadow didn't disappear. Instead, it seemed to absorb the light, growing even darker. "We need to get out of here," said Lily, her voice shaking. The group ran toward the staircase, but the shadows followed. More shapes appeared on the walls, climbing and stretching toward them. Every time they turned a corner, another shadow blocked their path. "Where are they all coming from?" shouted Mia, her breath quick and panicked. Tom turned to look behind them. The room they had just left was now filled with shadows, each one more twisted than the last. Some had no faces, while others had too many. "They're everywhere!" he yelled. The group ran back into the main room, slamming the door behind them. They pressed their backs against it, trying to catch their breath. "What do we do now?" asked Lily, tears streaming down her face. Jack looked around the room, his flashlight scanning for any clue. His eyes fell on the broken lantern hanging from the ceiling. "Maybe the light will help," he said. "What light?" asked Tom. "That thing hasn't worked in years." Jack didn't answer. He grabbed a chair and climbed up to reach the lantern. Dust and rust covered its surface, but there was something strange about it. The inside of the lantern had a faint, pulsing glow. "It's not completely dead," Jack said. "We just need to figure out how to use it." The shadows outside the door began pounding on it, their movements growing louder and more frantic. Time was running out. Chapter 4. Shadows Take Control. The friends stood in the center of the room, their backs pressed together. Shadows pounded on the door, creating loud, hollow thuds. The walls seemed to tremble with every hit. "We can't just stay here," shouted Tom, gripping his flashlight tightly. "We have to get out." "How?" asked Mia, her voice trembling. "They're everywhere." Jack pointed toward the staircase. "The door isn't our only way out. If we can reach the top, maybe we can signal for help." The group hesitated, staring at the dark spiral staircase. It seemed to stretch endlessly into the shadows, but they had no choice. The pounding on the door grew louder. "Let's go," said Tom. He led the way, holding his flashlight like a weapon. They moved quickly, their footsteps echoing on the metal stairs. The air grew colder as they climbed higher. Shadows flickered on the walls, following their every move. At the halfway point, Mia screamed. A shadow reached out from the wall, its dark hand grabbing her ankle. "It's got me," she cried, struggling to pull free. Tom turned back and swung his flashlight at the shadow. The light passed through it, but the shadow released Mia and retreated. "Keep moving," shouted Tom. They reached the top of the lighthouse, breathless and shaking. The large circular room was just as they had left it, dusty and broken, with the shattered lantern in the center. But now, the windows were covered in thick shadows, blocking out the faint moonlight. "We're trapped," said Lily, leaning against the wall. Tom searched the room, his flashlight darting from corner to corner. "There has to be something we can use," he said. "Anything to fight them off." Jack's eyes locked on the broken lantern in the center of the room. "That lantern," he said. "It has a faint glow inside. Maybe it still works." Tom picked it up, inspecting the glass. "It's old and rusty. How are we supposed to light it?" Before Jack could answer, the shadows began to seep through the walls. They slid into the room like dark liquid, pooling on the floor and taking shape. "There's no time," shouted Lily. Jack grabbed the lantern. "We need to try." Jack held the lantern in his hands, his fingers trembling. The faint glow inside pulsed weakly, like a heartbeat. "There's something about this lantern," he said. "It feels alive." Mia looked over his shoulder. "How can a lantern be alive?" Jack didn't respond. He noticed a small compartment at the base of the lantern, hidden beneath the rust. Using his fingernails, he pried it open. Inside was a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age. "What is it?" asked Lily, leaning closer. Jack unfolded the paper carefully. It was a handwritten note, scrawled in messy handwriting. "To anyone who finds this, the shadows are real. They are the spirits of those who died at sea. They were drawn to the light of the lantern, but now they are trapped here. The only way to free them is to rekindle the light." "The shadows? They're spirits?" asked Tom, his voice filled with disbelief. "That's why they're here," said Jack. "The lighthouse was supposed to guide ships, but it became their prison." "How do we rekindle the light?" asked Mia. Jack inspected the lantern again. There was a small compartment for oil, but it was empty. "We need something to light it," he said. Tom searched his bag. "I have matches, but no oil." The shadows in the room grew darker, their movements more frantic. They twisted and stretched, climbing the walls and reaching for the group. "There has to be oil somewhere," said Lily. "This is a lighthouse. They must have kept some here." Jack's eyes lit up. "The basement," he said. There was an old storage room downstairs. Maybe we can find oil there." "That's a long way down," said Mia, her voice shaking, "and the shadows are everywhere." Jack looked at the group. "It's our only chance." Reluctantly, they agreed. Holding the lantern tightly, Jack led the way down the spiral staircase. The shadows followed, their movements growing more aggressive. When they reached the main room, the shadows were waiting. They swirled around the walls, blocking the path to the basement. "What now?" asked Lily, her voice filled with panic. Jack held up the lantern. "They're afraid of this," he said. "Stay close to me." The group huddled together, moving slowly toward the basement door. The lantern's faint glow seemed to push the shadows back, but only slightly. They reached the door and pushed it open. Inside, the basement was dark and damp, with rows of shelves covered in dust. Jack scanned the shelves quickly, searching for anything that looked like oil. "Over here!" shouted Tom. He pointed to a small metal canister on the floor. Jack picked it up and opened the lid. The smell of oil filled the air. "This is it," said Jack. "We have what we need." The shadows outside the basement door began to pound against it. The friends scrambled to pour the oil into the lantern, their hands shaking with urgency. Jack struck a match and lit the lantern. The flame flickered for a moment, then grew brighter. The glow was warm and golden, filling the room with light. The pounding stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. Chapter 5. Final Showdown. The warm glow from the lantern filled the basement. The shadows, which had been pounding on the door moments ago, seemed to retreat. Their movements slowed, and they stayed near the edges of the light. "It's working," said Jack, holding the lantern high. The flame flickered but stayed strong. The friends stepped cautiously out of the basement, keeping close to Jack and the lantern. The shadows hissed and twisted, shrinking away from the light. "They don't like it," said Mia, her voice filled with both relief and fear. Tom looked at the others. "We need to get out of this lighthouse. We can't fight these things forever." Jack shook his head. "The note said we have to free them. If we leave now, they'll still be trapped here, and so will anyone else who comes." "Free them? How do we do that?" asked Lily. Jack pointed toward the top of the lighthouse. "We have to rekindle the main light. That's where they're drawn. If we light it, maybe it will release them." The group hesitated, but they knew there was no other choice. Slowly, they made their way back up the spiral staircase, the lantern lighting their path. The shadows followed, but they stayed at a distance, unable to come closer to the golden glow. As the group climbed higher, the air grew colder. The flame in the lantern flickered more violently. "Why is it doing that?" asked Mia, staring at the flame. "They're trying to snuff it out," said Jack, his grip tightening on the lantern. They reached the top of the lighthouse and stepped into the circular room. Shadows covered the walls, twisting and writhing like dark smoke. The broken lantern in the center of the room seemed to pulse faintly, as if reacting to the presence of the group. Jack placed the glowing lantern on the ground and inspected the large lantern. "We need to light this one," he said. Tom searched the room for more oil or anything that could help. "There's a small wick inside, but it's soaked in water," he said, holding up a rusted can. "Can we dry it out?" asked Lily. Jack thought for a moment. "We don't need the old wick. We just need the flame." He carefully lifted the glowing lantern and brought it closer to the broken one. The shadows in the room grew more agitated, their movements frantic. "They don't want us to do this," said Mia, backing away. Jack ignored her and focused on the task. He placed the glowing lantern next to the larger one and opened its glass panel. The flame flickered as if it were alive, leaping toward the old lantern. Suddenly, the shadows attacked. They came from all directions, swarming the group. The friends screamed as the darkness closed in, pulling at their arms and legs. "Keep them back!" shouted Jack. Tom and Mia swung their flashlights wildly, trying to push the shadows away. The light seemed to weaken the shadows, but it wasn't enough to stop them completely. Jack struck another match and held it to the old lantern's wick. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the wick caught fire, and the room filled with a brilliant, golden light. The shadows screamed. Their forms twisted and broke apart, dissolving into the air like smoke in the wind. The golden light spread outward, pushing the darkness away. Chapter 6. Escaping the Lighthouse. The friends stood in stunned silence as the golden light filled the room. The broken lantern glowed brighter than ever, its warmth chasing away the cold. "Did it work?" asked Lily, her voice trembling. Jack looked around. The walls were clear, the shadows were gone. "I think we did it," he said, his voice filled with relief. The group hurried down the spiral staircase, the golden light following them. Each step felt lighter, as if the air itself had lifted the heavy weight they had felt all night. When they reached the main room, they found it empty. The darkness that had filled every corner was gone. The old broken furniture looked ordinary now, without the eerie presence of the shadows. "Let's get out of here," said Tom. They opened the front door and stepped outside. The cool night air hit their faces, and the sound of the waves crashing below felt comforting instead of threatening. The lighthouse glowed faintly behind them, the golden light shining from its top. The group stood together, staring at the structure. "Do you think the shadows are really gone?" asked Mia. Jack nodded. "The note said they were trapped. The light must have set them free." The friends walked down the rocky path, away from the lighthouse. The weight of the night still lingered in their minds, but the fear had passed. As they reached the bottom of the cliff, Lily turned back to look at the lighthouse one last time. "It doesn't look scary anymore," she said. "No," said Jack. "It looks peaceful." The group stayed quiet for a moment, watching the golden light shine across the sea. Then they turned and walked away, leaving the lighthouse and its secrets behind. The group walked in silence along the rocky path. The night felt calmer now. The wind was soft, and the sea's roar seemed distant and soothing. No one spoke at first, each of them lost in their thoughts. Mia broke the silence. "Do you think anyone will believe us?" she asked, her voice low. "No," said Tom, shaking his head. "Who would believe something like that? Shadows that move on their own? A glowing lantern?" Jack looked over his shoulder at the lighthouse. The golden light still shone from the top, cutting through the darkness. "It doesn't matter if anyone believes us," he said. "We know what happened, and we know the shadows are gone." Lily nodded. "It feels different now, like the lighthouse isn't haunted anymore." Mia hugged her jacket tightly. "I'll never forget what we saw," she said. "Those shadows, The way they moved, it felt like they were alive. They were alive, said Jack. They were trapped spirits, just like the note said. They weren't evil. They were just lost. Tom frowned. Lost or not, they scared the life out of me. I'm never coming back here. The others laughed nervously, but they all agreed. The lighthouse was a place they would never visit again. As they reached the bottom of the cliff, the friends stopped to catch their breath. They turned to look at the lighthouse one last time. It didn't look menacing anymore. The golden light at the top made it seem almost welcoming. The building stood tall and strong against the night sky, its purpose finally restored. "What do you think will happen now?" asked Lily. Jack thought for a moment. "I think the lighthouse will stand here, just like it always has. But now it's free, just like the spirits." The group stood in silence, watching the light. It was beautiful in its own way, casting a warm glow over the dark sea. "We should go," said Tom, breaking the silence. "We've had enough adventure for one night." The friends turned and walked away, their footsteps crunching on the rocky path. As they moved farther from the lighthouse, the golden light grew smaller and smaller, until it was just a faint glow in the distance. For the first time that night, they felt truly safe. Chapter 1. Young Jennifer. It is July 24th, 1970, a hot summer day in the Bronx, New York. A lot of Puerto Rican people live here, and they are not all happy. But it is a good day for David and Guadalupe Lopez and their daughters Linda and Leslie. They are happy because they have a new little girl in the family. They call her Jennifer. Jennifer is beautiful and interesting. From 4 years old, she performs for the family. Sometimes she is a singer. Sometimes she is a dancer or a movie star. She loves the movie West Side Story. She watches it 100 times. In West Side Story, Rita Moreno plays Anita. For Jennifer, Rita is America's #1 actress and dancer. "I'd like to be her," Jennifer thinks. At 5, Jennifer goes to a school of theater and dance. In a short time, she can sing, act, and dance very well. "But is this important?" David and Guadalupe ask. They have good jobs. They want to see Jennifer in a good job, too. For this, schoolwork is very important. Chapter 2. Jennifer the Dancer. In 1975, Jennifer goes to the Holy Family Catholic School in New York. It is a good school, and she is a good student. But in 1983, the problems start. Now, schoolwork is not very important to Jennifer. She wants to be a performer. One day in 1988, she says, "I want to stop going to school." David and Guadalupe are angry. Jennifer is angry with them too. She walks out of the house. Jennifer lives in her dance school for a short time. Then she moves into an apartment in Manhattan with some friends. She dances in the school every day. She works well. Then she starts to look for a job. This is going to take a long time, Jennifer thinks. She is wrong. First, she gets a job in the theater show Golden Musicals of Broadway. The show goes to Europe. Then, after 5 months, she gets a job in a new show, Synchronicity. This show goes to Japan. In 1991, Jennifer is back in the U.S. She is a very good dancer now, and she is beautiful too. A lot of famous singers want the young dancer for their short music movies. Jennifer dances behind the singer Janet Jackson. This helps her, and she meets important people in the movie business. There are no problems with her family now. She has work, and she is a success. She has a boyfriend, too, David Cruz. Later that year, Jennifer moves to Los Angeles for the famous TV show In Living Color. Jennifer is a dancer in the show, but she is not always happy in her job. She wants to be an actress. Chapter 3. Jennifer the Actress. The head of the TV show South Central likes Jennifer's work. In 1993, he wants an actress for the show. He gives the job to Jennifer. After South Central, Jennifer works in 3 new TV shows: Second Chances, Malibu Road, and Nurses on the Line, The Crash of Flight 7. Jennifer is now a famous TV star. Then, in 1995, she is in her first Hollywood movie, Mi Familia. Mi Familia is a Latin movie. Her first English movies are Money Train and Jack. In Money Train, Jennifer is Grace Santiago, a New York policewoman. Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson play 2 brothers. They work for the police, too. The 2 men love Grace. The movie is about their problems. Jack is a funny movie. Robin Williams plays a boy, Jack. People look at Jack and think, he's not a boy, he's a man. Jennifer plays Jack's teacher. In her movies, Jennifer is in love stories with famous men. Her boyfriend, David, is unhappy about this, and he goes back to New York. Jennifer is unhappy too. But then she finds a new boyfriend. His name is Ojani Noah, and he is from Cuba. She marries him in 1997. In the same year, Jennifer is in 4 movies. The first movie is Blood and Wine with 2 very famous actors, Jack Nicholson and Michael Caine. The movie is about 2 bad men, Alex Gates and Victor Spansky. Jennifer is Gabriella, Alex's girlfriend. After Blood and Wine, Jennifer is in the movies Anaconda, U-Turn, and Selena. The movies are a success in the U.S., but Selena is a success in Latin countries too. In Selena, Jennifer plays Selena Quintanilla, the famous Mexican singer. It is an unhappy story because the singer's life was very short. Selena's father gives money for the movie. The director is Gregory Nava. Jennifer works on the movie in front of Selena's family. This is difficult. But the family likes Jennifer, and the movie teaches people about their daughter. This makes Jennifer happy because she liked Selena. Selena is a big success in many countries. Suddenly, Jennifer Lopez is not only a famous name in the U.S. The year 1998 arrives. Jennifer is happy, but she can't take a vacation. She is in 2 movies that year, Out of Sight and Ants. In Out of Sight, Jennifer is Karen Sisko, a policewoman. George Clooney is Jack Foley. Foley takes money from a bank. He gets away from the police and takes Karen with him. The story is about their love. Ants is a movie for children. We hear Jennifer, but we don't see her face. Chapter 4. Men and Movies. Jennifer's 1998 movies are a big success, but Ojani isn't happy. He and David have the same problem. They don't like to see Jennifer with men in love stories. Ojani moves away. Later, he and Jennifer divorce, but they meet often, and they are good friends. In 1999, Jennifer has a new boyfriend. His name is Sean Combs. He is a famous black singer. On December 27, 1999, Sean and Jennifer come out of a dance bar and get in their car. The police stop them. They find a gun in the front of the car. The gun is not Sean's, but the police take him away. Jennifer is in the back of the car. It is not her problem. The story is in the newspapers. Early in 2000, Jennifer stops seeing Sean. In that year, she makes the movie The Cell. Jennifer plays Catherine Dean, a doctor. Vincent D'Onofrio plays Carl, a bad man. He takes a young girl. But where is she? In 2001, Jennifer stars in The Wedding Planner. This is a funny movie and a love story. Jennifer plays Maria Fiore. Maria falls in love with Steve Edison, a doctor. The Wedding Planner is the #1 movie of 2001. In the same year, Jennifer marries Chris Judd, a dancer, but they divorce in August 2002. Jennifer stars in 2 thrillers, Angel Eyes and Enough. Then she is in Made in Manhattan, a love story. Jennifer starts going out with the actor Ben Affleck. In 2003, they star in the movie Giggly. A lot of newspapers don't like the movie, but Giggly makes money. Are Ben and Jennifer going to marry? People ask. The answer is no. Jennifer's love story finishes in September. But in 2004, Ben and Jennifer act in Jersey Girl, the story of a father and his little girl. Jennifer is not the star of that movie. After Jersey Girl comes Shall We Dance, with Richard Gere. It is a love story about a dance teacher and her student. Jennifer sings for it with her friend Mark Anthony. Some people are unhappy about Jennifer's movies at this time. Jennifer doesn't act well and the stories aren't interesting, they say. But 2004 is a good year for Jennifer. She falls in love with Mark. Jennifer and Mark marry, and they are very happy. After the movies Monster-in-Law, An Unfinished Life, and Border Town, Jennifer and Mark star in El Cantante. Mark plays the famous Puerto Rican singer, Hector Lavoe. Lavoe married Pucci, and Jennifer plays her. Chapter 5. Jennifer the Singer music was always important to Jennifer. Today, the famous actress is a famous singer too. Jennifer's music success story starts in 1999. In that year, she makes On the 6th. It is her first music CD. The name comes from the number of a train. Young Jennifer went on the 6th from a station near her home in New York. On the CD, she sings Know Me Ames with Mark Anthony. She sings in English too, but the music is Latin. After only 5 weeks, If You Had My Love, from the same CD, is #1 in the U.S. The success of Jennifer the Singer doesn't stop. In 2001, her CD J-Lo is again #1 in the U.S. She is the first singer-actress with a CD and a movie, The Wedding Planner, at #1 in the same week. In 2002, Jennifer makes 2 music CDs. The first CD of that year is J to the LO, The Remixes. It gets to #1 too. After that, This Is Me, then gets to #2. Jennifer's CD Rebirth arrives in 2005. It gets to #2 in the U.S. Then Jennifer makes her CD Como Ama Una Mujer. It is in Spanish. A lot of Latin people love this CD, and it is #1 in Mexico. In September 2007, Jennifer's CD Brave arrives. It doesn't have the same success and only gets to #12 in the U.S. Chapter 6. Success in Business. Jennifer Lopez is not only an actress, she is not only a dancer, and she is not only a singer, she has success in the fashion business too. This starts in 2001. After the success of The Wedding Planner, Jennifer opens a clothes business with Andy Hilfiger. Andy is the brother of fashion's famous Tommy Hilfiger. They call their business Sweet Face. There aren't many clothes for big women, but this isn't a problem with Sweet Face. Jennifer starts JLO too. From JLO, women can buy clothes and perfume too. In a very short time, Jennifer's clothes are famous, and her perfume, Glow, is #1. But some people are angry about Jennifer's business. Some of her clothes come from dead animals, they say. That's not right. Jennifer listens because she likes animals. Today, those people are happy. Jennifer is in the food business too. In April 2002, she opens a place in Pasadena, California. Jennifer calls it Madres. Madre is mother in Spanish. The food there is the Cuban food of her mother's family. Chapter 7. For the children. Children are important to Jennifer. She does a lot of charity work for sick children, and she helps families with very little money. These are important to Mark too. Today, Jennifer Lopez and Mark Anthony are famous for their charity work. One night in May 2007, the two stars are in New York with the famous singer Paul Simon. They ask people for money for sick children. The night is a big success. People give a lot of money to the charity. And now Jennifer and Mark have children too. Jennifer's friends and family are very happy for them. For Jennifer, children are very important. This time is important too. It is a quiet time. For now, work comes after family. Chapter 8. Jennifer Lopez, the star with many faces. She is a dancer, a singer, an actress, a businesswoman, and she helps unhappy children and families. Jennifer Lopez does all of these jobs very well. In the 1990s, Jennifer Lopez was the #1 actress and dancer in the U.S. Today, she is famous for many things in many countries. From Asia to America, people ask, "Who is our #1 Latina?" The answer is always the same: Jennifer Lopez, of course.